Welcome back to the Intercooler podcast, everybody. The podcast powered by car finance specialist JBR Capital with Dan Prosser and Andrew Frankel. We're a bit tired this morning, Andrew.
Long day yesterday.
It was a very good day, but it was a long day up at Bicester Motion for the latest Sunday Scramble.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of you were there. Many of you came over to say hello. So thanks to everyone who took the time to come and see us.
And all our 911s.
And all our 911s, yes. So we always try to get together a decent assembly of cars for these scrambles, don't we? That's sort of what we're there for, I think. Bring some cool cars along.
Absolutely.
That's why they have us,
Yeah,
isn't
let people see cars they wouldn't normally see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we just decided to do the 911. And the point of the display was to sort of show off the breadth of the 911. The road cars, the race cars, the old cars, the new cars.
Exactly.
And you're now going to reel off the top of your head
bloody hell.
8 cars that we had there.
Right. So we had brand new cars. We had a new Carrera T and a new GT3 Touring. Slightly older, we had possibly my favourite car in the whole wide world, a 997 GT3 RS, which it was my inestimable privilege to drive to Bicester. I was there before 7 in the morning. So I left home at about, just before 5 on a Sunday morning in a GT3 RS with England to myself.
Presumably you didn't go all the way along the M4 and then up the A34.
Funnily enough.
No,
I didn't. And that was amazing. So that was very, very cool. We also had ProDrive very kindly produced an incredibly rare 911 SCRS. Can
I just jump in?
Yeah.
So this is a 1980s, actually Group B era rally car that ProDrive built. It was their first car. Yeah. That's where it all started. And as we were on our stand, I saw David Lapworth walk past.
Oh, wow.
So I just grabbed him and said, "David, we've got your car." And David Lapworth has been David Richards, the ProDrive founder's right-hand man for 40 plus years. Yeah. He's the technical guru, really, behind all of ProDrive. And you could just see him. He clocked it. He, peering over a couple of other cars and just went, "Gosh, that was 41 and a half years ago or something."
Wow.
It must seem extraordinary to him.
Yeah. Goodness. What else? So we had, this is quite interesting. We had a brand new Carrera Cup racing car, a 992 Carrera Cup racing car. And parked next to it, we had a 964 Carrera Cup car, which was the very first Cup car.
Yeah.
So we had the very first and the most recent Cup cars side by side. And the evolution from one to the other is actually greater than it is in the road cars, because what you're looking at with the 964 is essentially a road car with a bit of suspension and some slicks and that sort of thing.
If you took the stickers off and you couldn't see through the windows, you'd think road car,
You'd think road car. Whereas the 992, the new car, wow, proper racing car.
It looks like much more than just a sort of single make thing, doesn't it? It looks like a series. Well, it is a series racing car, but
it's Britain's fastest. It is the fastest one make series.
Yeah, but it looks like a GT3 racing car from a few years ago.
Exactly right. I haven't driven, apart from a few hundred yards yesterday to get it in and out of the hangar, and without ever leaving first gear. I haven't driven a 992 Cup car, but I've driven a 991. So obviously the previous car, which is actually not that different. And I've driven one of those in anger on a track, and wow. Because the thing about those cars is certainly the 991. I think the 992, if you're an AM driver, you are allowed something like ABS.
Are you?
Yeah, the 991.
It's gone soft.
991, you're on your own.
Yeah.
It's literally... And to me, that actually makes more sense because there's nothing interfering with the drive.
Well, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and he looked at it and he sort of assumed that the Carrera Cup was a sort of almost entry-level series, or the cars wouldn't be particularly challenging, or they'd have all sorts of aids. And I was explaining to him, actually, as far as I understand it, these things are tricky to drive.
I mean, the car I drove, I'm absolutely not going to mention names, but it got rolled into a ball by the next person in it, who was an experienced race car driver.
Yeah.
And you have to be... Yeah, you have to manage the tyres, and you do get little lights telling you if a brake is locking. It doesn't stop the brake locking, and you've got different colour lights telling you whether it's locking at the front or the back. But other than that, you're on your own. Sorry, I've completely off topic, haven't I? So we had the two top Cup cars.
Just want to mention that 964 Cup car because it was supplied by our friends at Sports Purpose.
Yeah.
Their base is 100 metres away from our spot at Bicester.
Yeah.
So thank you to everyone at Sports Purpose for making that car available.
They wheeled it out to us at not much notice, and we're seriously grateful, guys. What else was there? Oh, another racing car.
Here's a hint.
Yeah, here's a hint. Yes, the colours, if not the car. Porsche GB, quite a few years ago, created its own, what I call an FIA short wheelbase car. So this is a pre-66 car which complies to the FIA regulations of that time. And pre-66 in historic racing is really important because there are all sorts of series you can go and do if you've got a pre-66 car, which you can't do if you've got a 66 or a 67 or anything.
And Goodwood for one thing.
Goodwood for one thing, yeah, but also Spa 6 Hours and that sort of thing. And there's now a dedicated series for these 2-litre short wheelbase 911s. And I raced one at the Le Mans Classic in 2010, I think. And they are absolutely mega things. And Porsche had one of these things, and it's been raced by Max Chilton and Richard Atwood, and it's had some very senior drivers behind the wheel. And so we were very lucky to be able to get that on the stand. How many is that? 7?
Yeah, one more.
And one more. Well, most valuable car, maybe not actually with the SCRS. Most valuable road car there, definitely. DK Engineering very kindly provided a 2.7 Carrera RS. And I think most people listening to this will know exactly what that is. But this wasn't just any old Carrera. So far as I could see, it was perfect, despite the fact they'd driven it up the M40.
It didn't come on the back of a trailer, did it?
Not. No, it was driven there and back. This is one of the original lightweights. So, they made them in lightweight and touring specifications, and I can't remember exactly, but I think touring's outnumbered lightweights by about 10 to 1. As a result, many cars that started life as tourings have been lightweighted, and they present as lightweights, but they're not. This one is. And I think it's £1 million.
Is it £1 million?
Yeah. Oof. I think that's what they'd like for it.
I'm sure.
And it's just so beautiful. It was blue over white, which to me is my favourite livery for those sorts of things. And I looked around, and because I owned a really bad replica of one of those ones, which I adored, and it was wonderful, and I got it from, I bought it from Richard Tuthill. I say it's bad, it had just done a lot of miles, and it was somebody's project, which he'd not been able to complete. But it was an SC base, and it was which meant it had a galvanized shell, which means it would be much more rot resistant, which was important to me. And it had that 3-litre engine, which somebody had put onto Weber carbs, and it had those sort of SSI pea shooter exhausts on it, so it sounded unbelievable. But when you saw the DK car at Bicester yesterday, I was just reminded by just how much nicer the real thing is.
Yeah.
Then again, mine was probably 20 grand.
Yeah, not £1 million.
Yeah, so like 2%. Of the real deal. So I still think mine's probably the better value. But anyway, thank you very much also to our friends at DK Engineering for stumping that up for us as well.
Yeah, those guys were really helpful, and they just seemed delighted to be able to bring a handful of cars along to show at different points around the show. So for those watching on YouTube, you will have seen me earlier just point to this model that's in front of us, a 917 in this red and white livery.
Salzburg colours,
yeah. And the little early 911, the race car that we had on our stand yesterday, was in the same colours.
It wasn't it great?
Lovely.
It looked wonderful.
Yeah, it did.
Is this a good time also to, and I think we've mentioned it already, but to say again that our presence at Bicester is thanks to our great friends at Bicester Motion, with whom we now have a commercial relationship. We are media partners of theirs. And if you've never been to a scramble, I know that we said this every time we come back from a scramble. We come back from scrambles, and it's not just the great time that we have. I mean, one of the problems with actually exhibiting there is you don't really get much time to look around.
Not a lot.
When we're both there, we can sort of, one of us, one at a time, can dive off for 20 minutes and go and have a quick stooge about. But almost all the rest of your time, you're on the stand talking to friends. But the amount of people who just came up, and you always ask them what they've seen and what they've liked and what they think of it. And so many people who'd never been to a scramble before and had just sort of, decided to go, or they'd been given a ticket by a mate or whatever, they were just so wide-eyed. A, by what they saw, but also the venue, which is just such a beautiful place. You think of those cold, sterile halls that, you go and get modern car shows in.
Yeah.
And then you go to Bicester Motion. Can't call it Bicester Heritage anymore, can we?
No.
Let's change its name. And it's just a great way for enthusiasts to gather and share the passion for what we all love.
Yeah, they're really good things. They've been so smart in doing it. There are 3 a year, aren't there? And so it's been going on for, I don't know, several years now.
Yeah.
But because it's not just annually, it's become a fixture on the automotive calendar. And people look forward to it, and it's really well established, and it attracts great stuff and people.
And a really good point to make now, particularly today, is, but I say this because it always sells out really, really quickly.
Yeah.
If you want to go to the next one, which is in January, I think you'll probably get a ticket if you go onto the website now. If you go onto the Bicester Motion website, but if you try in a week's time, there's a very good chance you won't.
Yeah.
So if you've always been meaning to go to a scramble, and you want to sort of beat the sort of post-Christmas blues and just go and hang out with a bunch of, brilliant car people and see some amazing stuff, get on the website now, book yourself a ticket, and we'll see you there.
Yeah, well said. So while we were there, the Singapore Grand Prix was happening.
Yes, which we're not going to dwell on.
It started at 1:00, and so we sort of had it on our phones, and we're peering at our phones periodically, weren't we, just to see what was going on.
Yeah.
So
not very much.
Not very well. That's the problem, isn't it? That is the problem. Even we could tell, just sort of dipping in and out, we could tell that it wasn't a particularly interesting race. There was very little overtaking going on.
But you can't overtake there. I mean, I would get, I know it's all about the commercials, and I'm sure that whoever runs Formula One makes an enormous amount of money out of that contract. But, I know you and I feel differently about Monaco. I'd get rid of the Monaco Grand Prix. I just would. If you have a Grand Prix weekend when Saturday's more interesting than Sunday, something's gone badly wrong.
I do agree. Do you know what? There was, after this year's race, there was a proposal from, I think it was The Race, the website and podcast, looking at how the track could be adapted to create at least one overtaking opportunity. And there are a few. There are 3 spots, I think, that they identified. In one case, they'd have to reclaim a bit of land from the harbour, but they're doing that anyway, just around the corner.
Yeah. So
why isn't that being taken seriously?
Because they've got the money. I guess they sell it. I don't know whether they sell it out or not. It's hard to conclude it's for any reason other than they just don't care enough about the spectacle. About the show that they're putting on for the fans, who ultimately are the people who make the whole thing possible. I mean, I'd get rid of Hungary too. Any circuit where there is one or fewer legitimate overtaking places, just get rid of it.
It'll be interesting to see what next year's cars are like with the movable aero. I think there's some sort of push-to-pass system, isn't there? So,
but you don't want to make it too artificial, do you?
I know. But honestly, I've just had enough of Formula One cars sitting one behind another, and the drivers can't do anything.
Imagine you're a driver, and you're quicker than, I mean, for most of the race yesterday, Lando was sitting there, in Max's slipstream, and I've no doubt at all that if he could have got past...
Oh, he would have been quicker, yeah.
Not only would he have been quicker, but, and I think they said it on Sky Commentary. I think Martin said that, Max did George Russell a huge favour. Because I think that if... what he actually, I think, meant was that the track did George Russell a huge favour. Yeah. Because if Lando could have got past Max, I think he would have been out there absolutely angling for a win. But then he wouldn't be able to get past George anyway. It just cheeses me off. That we're treated to not shows like that because it doesn't need to be like that. And there must be any number of other circuits that have been former F1 circuits or could be brought up to that specification where you could have a really, really good show. And we don't get it. We go to places like that and to Hungary and Monaco.
Let's go to Kyalami.
Let's go. Wouldn't that be... I'd love there to be a Formula One race in Africa.
Yeah, it's astonishing that there isn't one.
Well, there hasn't been for, goodness knows, more than 30 years.
Yeah.
I think they had some at the former Kyalami, which was... So the original Kyalami was unbelievable. But very, very senior, and there's no way in the world you could ever race Formula One cars around that, even if it still existed, which it doesn't. But actually, I'm just trying to think. It wasn't one of those circuits where loads of people died. I mean, Peter Revson died there, but that was a car breakage. Tom Price very sadly died there, but that was a freak occurrence which had nothing to do with the layout of the circuit. And it was wonderful. But that went away, and they sort of cobbled together a Mickey Mouse version of it, which was terrible. But they have since rebuilt it, and I've been to it, and I've been around it, and it is amazing. But it is whatever they grade these circuits, don't they?
Yeah, it's not graded,
and it's a grade 2.
It's not grade 1.
I think you could do WEC there. You could certainly do GT3 there.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do Formula 1 there.
No. And actually, it was so bizarre. The previous race, Baku. What everyone knows about Baku is that there's that very, very long straight, and with DRS you can overtake.
Yes.
Except this time, you just couldn't. It was really odd. And that just made it a pretty unexciting race.
Well, let's see what next. But the problem with next year's cars are, yes, they are moving in the right direction because they are a bit smaller and a bit lighter.
A tiny bit, yeah.
But yeah, exactly. You need a transformation. You know, if you went and parked a 1962 Lotus 25 next to a modern Formula 1 car, I mean, your eyes would fall out. Yeah. Because one's about 3 times the size of the other. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment we go back to those spindly old things which were so unbelievably dangerous, but there simply has to be some sensible middle ground where the cars are still safe and they can actually put on a show worth watching. And at some circuits today, they do, but that says far more about the circuits than the cars. But at too many circuits, as we saw yesterday, as we've seen too often this season, they just don't. And you end up regretting even investing the time taken to watch the bloody thing.
Yeah, you do.
Anyway. Shall we move on?
I think we probably should move on. So a couple of weeks ago, we published our podcast with Jason Plato.
That was something, wasn't it?
Lots of people came up to us yesterday and spoke about how much they enjoyed that hour and a half, hour 45, whatever it was, with
the Q&A.
With Jason. Yeah, it was quite a long one. But it was surprising to a lot of people, wasn't it?
It was, because I think that lots of people think they know Jason because he is just one of those larger than life characters, and has been. He's been in and around racing cars for well over. I think he won his first title in 1991 or something. That was that sort of European Formula Renault thing. And he's been part of the BTC furniture for such a long time. And then obviously he retired from racing. And as you will listen, if you haven't heard the podcast, do go and listen to it. I'm not going to go into all the details now. But basically, and he won't mind me saying this at all, his life fell apart. And for the last 3 years, he's been trying to recover. Is not too strong a word. From a very, very deep dark hole in which he found himself. And he said to us, because I asked him the question, how does your recovery rank alongside all you've achieved in motorsport? And he said that was nothing. The recovery is far and away, he regards it as the greatest achievement. So I think he is I suspect he would describe himself still very much as work in progress. But he's in a massively better place now than he has been. And you may know that he has announced that Jason Plato Motorsport will be on the grid for the BTCC at the beginning of next year. So he's going to become a team owner. So he's not going anywhere. But it was just the most... It was the most remarkable podcast because so much of it was, the fantastic stories and the great laughs and everything else. And then suddenly it just sort of turned and it became so thoughtful and honest, sometimes painfully so.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Dan, but I just felt this sense of I was just proud that he felt that he could open up like that on the TI podcast. So yeah, it was an amazing recording, and I'm proud that we've done it.
I think there's a slightly curious thing going on with Jason because he is such a gregarious, outgoing character. He's very familiar to us from his TV work, and so that stuff, when you hear Jason Plato, almost becomes more prominent in the mind than his driving ability. But actually, his driving ability, even now, but certainly when he was right at the peak of his powers, was remarkable. He was a hell of a racing driver.
Yeah, I mean, he went toe-to-toe with, people who'd been in Formula One test drivers, and got the drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He absolutely should. He deserved a shot at a proper single-seater career. Yeah. He was very, very good in single-seaters in his early days. But we know, and he gave a few examples of other people there are so many fantastic drivers out there who had the talent, absolutely had the ability to go and have a really good professional career, but just never the opportunity. And we know the opportunity is the bigger part of it, isn't it?
But I think he would also be the first to say, in fact, he did say it, he would be... he wouldn't be necessarily high up anybody's list from the point of view of someone who's going to be prepared to toe the corporate line, and do all the tedious, on message stuff, scripted stuff that you have to get out and say, and all the people that you can just see Jason not surviving in that.
Well, and also he doesn't take a racing driver's approach, a modern racing driver's approach to racing, does he?
Not that familiar with the inside of a gym, I understand. No. He's
not all about his healthy diet and staying off the booze and everything else.
He loves it. If he'd been born, if he'd been racing in the 1960s, with all the other, hell-raising, fun-loving 50s, actually even more so, with the Peter Collins and Mike Hawthorns as well. I mean, he missed his era.
Yeah, he did.
He would have absolutely loved that.
On the other hand, he did find the form of motorsport that suited his lifestyle, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Until it all went. There was one comment on the podcast which, of all the things that he said, I don't know, it's the one that I sort of dwelt on because I thought it was such an insight into a state of mind when it did go wrong. Remember he said he went home and took down all the mirrors?
Yeah.
He didn't have a single mirror in the house. He didn't say any more than that as to why, but I don't think it takes an awful lot of interpretation to understand that. And it was, it was in equal parts, sad and fascinating and poignant and ultimately uplifting because he's on the mend.
Mm. Yeah. Well done, Jason, and thank you for being so open and honest with everyone. And then the week after we recorded with Jason, we did it all over again, didn't we?
That wasn't a rubbish evening either.
No. So we, thanks to our friends at JBR Capital, our car finance partner, we did it all over again a week later with Dario Franchitti. Yeah. So JBR held an event in a glitzy venue in London, and they invited us along to record a live podcast. Mm-hmm. Dario was the guest, and it wasn't exactly a podcast evening, was it? It was their own event. It was a networking event for them.
Exactly.
And we did a couple of sessions on stage recording with Dario.
Exactly.
But Dario's a great guest. He's had a phenomenal career and he continues to do really interesting stuff in the road car world. But B, he's also a pro and he knows exactly what we're looking for, doesn't he?
But C, he loves cars.
He really does. Yeah.
I mean, that you can't fake that enthusiasm. You could be the best actor in the world and you couldn't because it's the knowledge and you just look at the cars that he's owned and the stuff that he's done. He's one of us.
Oh God, is he?
With a bit more talent.
And a few more means.
Yeah, well, indeed.
But he talks in the podcast will go out in the next couple of weeks on this channel, the YouTube channel, and the usual podcast channel. So you'll be able to listen to it very soon. But he, of course, talks about the highlights of his racing career, some of the lowlights as well. Mm. He's very honest about the accident that he had, which did end his professional career.
Well, I said to him, because we'd already recorded the Jason Plato podcast at the time, and I said to him, Jason Plato's career ended out of choice, and he struggled with not being a racing driver anymore. And I said to Dario, but you had no choice over it at all. You didn't want that to happen. You didn't choose that to happen. You had a terrible accident and suddenly you woke up in hospital and you weren't a racing driver anymore. And said, how difficult was that for you to deal with? And I can't remember the exact words, but he said something like, I was so busy being grateful still to be alive. Yeah. I was completely fine with it.
Yeah. He was also, I suppose it helps that he was right towards the end of his professional career, wasn't it? He knew he wasn't going to be doing it forever. He'd achieved everything.
3 Indy 500s.
4 IndyCar championships.
4 IndyCar championships.
He'd done it all over that side.
I still think he would have wanted to go and do Le Mans.
Of course, but it's different if you're a 22-year-old, you're a promising young racer.
Of course.
And your career gets snatched away from you before you've had
But Jason was in his 50s when he stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, awful if you're, if you're a sort of Billy Munger type person.
You never actually get a chance.
A young hotshot who everybody's going, oh no, watch this guy, and then suddenly it all just comes to a horrible end.
So that episode will go out in a week or two. It's worth listening to. We also we talk a lot about road cars because Dario's involved with Gordon Murray Automotive. He's got a very professional job title, but ultimately he's
chief peddler,
chief test driver. Really, Gordon Murray Automotive has full-time test drivers, a team of them, but Dario sort of oversees them. He points them in the right direction, and of course Dario just loves road cars. He owns a lot right now, and he's owned many in the past. And he's got great stories, and he talks about going up to Scotland 25 odd years ago with his F40 so that Colin McRae could have a go in it. Could only imagine.
Maybe he'd come drive to Wales so I could have a go at it.
Oh, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it just?
Dario, you listening? A few other things that I want to talk about in the second part of this podcast, but I'm going to remind you all that you can subscribe to the Intercooler, our multi-award-winning ad-free online car magazine. And if you choose an annual sub and use coupon code POD20, you'll get 20% off for the first year. There'll be a link in the description. Click that, and you can go and subscribe. Use POD20 to get a 20% discount on your first year. You don't just get the magazine,
by no means.
The daily articles that are written by the world's best team of automotive writers, not just us. But you can also listen to this podcast completely ad-free. You can get audio versions of our daily articles ad-free. There's a midweek podcast just for subscribers called Ask the Intercooler, ad-free. So the amount of audio output we're sticking out there these days, it is a lot. And if you subscribe, it's totally ad-free.
And just on the audio versions of the stories that we write, and just apropos having been at Bicester yesterday, the number of subscribers who came up to us and said a couple were dyslexic and they found stories physically very difficult to read on the website app or indeed other people's paper magazines. But most, just from a sort of convenience point of view. And they were saying, it's just made such a difference because there's an awful lot of output. Every day there's a new story, and they take, if you think of them as a mini podcast all by themselves, every single day, they tend to last about sort of 10 to 15 minutes if it's a decent sized story. Which for a lot of people is a walk of the dog or a quick drive of the car or whatever. And every single day you can listen to something new just from us. Did you tot up the amount of audio that we put out per month or something?
It's 10 to 12 hours per month.
Which is an enormous amount. And the thing is that nobody else is doing it in anything like the way that we are. And our subscribers absolutely love it because I think they do just think of it as being, not just one normal podcast a week and one Ask the Intercooler per week, but also every single day of the working week. There are these, shorter but voiced articles, which are effectively mini podcasts in their own right, coming out every single day.
Yeah. There are lots of people out there who just, as you say, just don't have the time to read or perhaps the inclination.
I also think a lot of people just enjoy listening.
Yeah.
Well, it does require less effort than reading sometimes, doesn't it?
That is the way media is moving towards audio, because you can just do it while you're doing all sorts of other things. And so it's really important to us that we make everything that we do available in audio form. And people really like it. Here's one more reason to subscribe. Every month we give away a Supernatural car care kit to either a new subscriber or an existing subscriber. That kit's worth 125 quid or something. It's a really good kit from Supernatural, which is a top quality car care company. They strip away all the dyes and the fragrances and all the stuff that makes other car cleaning kits bright green and smell like bubble gum.
It's just the stuff that cleans your car.
It's the stuff that cleans your car. It's the stuff that you really need. And if you aren't one of the lucky winners, you can still benefit from our partnership with Supernatural Car Care by going to supernaturalcarcare.com, filling up your basket with lots of lovely products and using coupon code TI10 to get a 10% discount. I want to stay at Bicester Motion just a bit longer.
Okay.
Because last week, I spent a very, very happy half day.
I'm so cheesed off. I had a not insignificant birthday last week.
You did,
which I'm very happy about. I'm still glad to be here, but it meant I missed this.
Yeah,
and knowing what you were going to do, and now knowing what you went and did, and having spoken to the main man who made it all possible yesterday at Bicester, I'm really cheesed off I wasn't there.
It was brilliant. So Hedley Studios, formerly the Little Car Company, founded by Ben Hedley, who came on the podcast a few months ago. Can you just sort of remind everyone what they do?
What they do is they make, little cars. But they're electric cars, which can be driven by children or adults. They make them in different sizes. The cars they've made so far are a Type 35 Bugatti, an Aston Martin DB5, a Ferrari Testarossa, and most recently a blower Bentley. The Bentley is so big, it's 3/4 the size of a real one. It's about the size of a Volkswagen Golf.
Yeah.
And you can drive that on the road.
I did, yeah.
And you did. And it's like a sort of tandem two-seater. But the thing about these cars is they're not toys. These are very serious, beautifully engineered, so much so that these cars come with the full approval and support and assistance of the factories that made them originally.
Yeah.
I think you can go on most of them. These cars are on their configurator. So I think you can go on the Ferrari configurator.
And find it there.
And I think they come with proper Ferrari chassis numbers. Yeah. I mean, they are really, really pucker, authentic things. They look beautiful. I think you were a bit surprised by just how well they drove as well.
I was. I'll come to that. But in the case of the Ferrari in particular, so the space frame chassis, apart from the fact that it doesn't have opening doors, so that part of the frame, is fixed. It's solid to make it a bit stronger. But otherwise, the angles of all the tubes, the shape of everything is exactly the same as the original thing. They scanned a Testarossa chassis at Ferrari Classiche to get it just right, and the bodies. I mean, what would be the easier thing to do? Make them out of glass fibre or something? It'd be so straightforward.
Yeah, absolutely. Doddle.
These things have proper hand-beaten aluminium bodies. They're beautiful.
And proper space frame chassis.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the sort of products that you would expect the manufacturers of the originals to want to shout about. And you can imagine if you made a cheap glass fibre electric Testarossa. I mean, Ferrari's you probably end up in court.
You would.
Yeah.
You would. You don't get the blessing of Maranello if you don't do it properly.
No, absolutely not.
But yeah, I mean, so there's the handling track at Bicester, which is actually ideal for these things.
Exactly.
And hoofing those cars around that track was such a blast, particularly the Ferrari, and another one that I'll come to in a minute. But that Ferrari, I was blown away because it actually handles. It really handles.
It's properly set up.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It steers beautifully for one thing. For another, the chassis balance is just sublime, and it's full of feel, right? Because it's such a tiny, light little thing. Of course it is. And so you'll chuck it into a corner, you'll feel the front end push a little bit, and you'll just lift off the throttle, or you'll give it a dab of brakes, and you can adjust your line, and the back end will come around.
Yeah.
And it's just so beautifully balanced. I was left foot braking in it because it's like a go-kart, really. It's easy to do. And what you find when you're using both feet, not just to make it stop and go, but to adjust the balance of the car, and you're using the steering to steer the car. So you've got all four limbs going at the same time, adjusting the balance of the car. And I've heard it described as flying a car. It's just a wonderful sensation.
And all your four limbs are working in perfect harmony with each other, and you're almost not sort of thinking about it because... Actually, and we're so far removed from that these days, aren't we?
Yeah.
With these days of sort of one-pedal drive.
Yeah.
And cars that steer themselves. And you kind of forget that actually, as human beings, we're quite good at coordinating all of our limbs. Our limbs are designed to work together. And when you get into that moment, when you sort of look around and you see your arms and your legs all doing these things, without you really telling them about to do it because it's so natural and instinctive to you, that's driving.
Oh, it was great.
That is driving.
Yeah.
And that's what it should be about, and that's what it's too rarely about these days. So
you've had a go in the same car, haven't you? At the same place.
It was a while ago. I had an absolute ball in it. There's a ridiculous photograph of me sideways on three wheels in this thing.
Yeah.
Just loving every second of it because they're EVs, so they don't sound like the originals at all. They don't try to do that. But it's like a Caterham. It's light, it's properly engineered. Their sensors of gravity are very low. And as long as you do that and you do it properly, the car will be fun to drive. Yeah. And on top of that, it looks amazing. And you can spend just a huge amount of time, not even sat in the car, just poring over the details and seeing how carefully and cleverly engineered it is, and how the lengths that they went to make sure that these things are, properly authentic, down to the smallest possible detail. I mean, they don't have, the Ferrari doesn't have a 3-litre V12 Colombo motor in it. But where it can be authentic, albeit slightly scaled down, it is. And they're wonderful things.
We should point out, they are astonishingly expensive.
Of course.
I'm not about to go out and buy one.
No.
I don't have the money. They're not cheap cars, but it's sort of to be expected, the quality of them and the fact that they're properly licensed from the manufacturers. There's no other way. But I did drive another car, another Hedley Studios car that...
Maybe you'll have to talk about this.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it's not quite as enormously expensive. I think actually when the Tamiya Wild One Max does eventually become available to customers, I might get this wrong, but I think it's sort of Golf GTI kind of money, something like that, maybe a bit less. Forgive me, Ben, if I've got that wrong. But we're not talking high 5 figures or 6 figures, So you've probably seen this Tamiya Wild One Max. It's a scaled up Tamiya. It looks exactly like one of the original Tamiya.
So instead
RC
of sort of
cars.
making models of real cars,
Yeah.
this is a real car made from using the model as its inspiration.
Yeah, it goes the other way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And this is because Hedley Studios will take care of the sort of recreations of iconic real cars. And there's another division. I don't know if they've actually launched it yet, so I won't give away the name. But there will be another division of Hedley that produces these sort of one-off, really fun, really exciting, creative, innovative other products. The Tamiya is one of those.
But when you say one-off, they're not going to make just one of them.
No.
Yeah.
No, but they're okay. Fine. They're not one-off, but they're sort of standalone models, and
exactly.
They don't sit alongside the other stuff in the Hedley lineup. And I mean, I was curious and actually really intrigued by the Wild One Max when it was first announced a good few years ago now. But it's evolved a lot. So the first one that they built was to L7E regulations. That makes it road legal, but it massively limits the amount of power it can have.
Yeah.
And so Ben was telling me that they built
it's like
this.
a Citroen Ami.
It's a Citroen Ami. It's a Renault Twizy.
Yeah.
And those things max out at 33 miles an hour, whatever it is.
28.
Probably.
Yeah.
They are slow.
Yeah.
And so Ben was saying that lots of people drove the L7E, the early spec Wild One Max, and I'm sure they had fun.
I drove it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Did you? I didn't know that.
Completely off the record.
Right, okay.
At the time. Didn't say anything about it, wasn't allowed to.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I said what everybody else said. Great concept, not fast enough.
Just needs more power.
Yeah.
Everyone said it needs more power.
Yeah.
So they tore it all up, almost started again, and now it's built to, I can't remember what the regulation, maybe it's M1 or something, but it means it's a fully homologated road car. And so it's a massive headache for the engineers at Hedley Studios because it's a massively more complicated thing. But it means the car can have a load more power.
And a load more power it's going to have.
So the one that I drove was sort of in between. It's a prototype, right? So it's sort of in between the homologated road car model and the L7E. So it had, I think it was 40 or 50 horsepower. The real thing will have a good chunk more than that. And
he told me how much more yesterday, but I'm not sure. I can't remember whether he told me in confidence.
He did. Yeah, we're not allowed to say.
Okay. So, but when you say a good chunk, you do mean a good chunk.
I do mean a good chunk. But then there's also, they're looking at doing another version that has way more power.
Yeah.
I can't say how much, but honestly, even the one with a good chunk more power is going to be rapid. The one I drove was quick. It felt brisk. And so, goodness me, the one with a chunk more power is going to be mega, and the one with a load more power is going to be wild, max.
Good.
But what really stood out, even with the sort of limited power of the one that I drove, the chassis is just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant. I want to drive it on dirt, on the loose, because that's what it's built for, really. But even on the handling track, the test track at Bicester, it's what you want from a buggy. There's a load of wheel travel.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of body movement. It doesn't feel sort of sloppy and wayward, but it does roll and lean and pitch and dive.
Is it quite nomadic?
Yeah, it is that sort of thing. I think probably more so because it's a lighter car.
Yeah.
So they don't have to tie it down so much. But what the sort of defining trait was that you would hurl it at a corner quite quickly, and it would roll a bit and then just oversteer. And through certain corners, if you got it right, you'd just turn it in, and then you'd be neutral on the steering, and the thing would just steer itself all the way through, just sort of sliding all the way through the exit, through the entry.
Sounds like a properly set up historic race car.
Oh, it was brilliant fun. This one didn't have the power to brake traction on exit and slide that way.
Yeah.
Maybe the other ones will. But even so, launching it at a corner, neutral steering, just feeling it turn itself around the entry of the bend. Brilliant thing.
You had a good day out.
And so the reason I was doing this was to do some filming for to launch a competition that we're holding with Bicester Motion, where 3 winners plus a guest will be able to go along to Bicester Motion, meet Ben, have a look around the Hedley Studios factory, and drive the cars on the track.
Yeah. And the Bentley on the road as well?
I don't know if they...
Maybe. We have discussed it.
Oh, okay.
But these are not finalised. But it's whatever it's going to be a hell of a competition.
Yeah.
And the point is, this is not something you can go out and buy.
You absolutely can't.
It really is money cannot buy this prize.
Whoever wins is going to have a blast. It's going to be a very memorable day. We're not launching the competition right now, but over the next few days, we are going to launch it on social media. So you're just going to have to check out.
Stay tuned.
At The Intercooler on Instagram. You'll find us on Twitter, The Intercooler X. It's called X, isn't it? And we will launch the competition very soon, and we'll explain how to enter. But goodness me, you want to enter because it's it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Whoever wins it is going to have an absolute blast. And actually, their plus ones will have a hugely amusing time just watching you barrel around the test track on these things, having the time of your life.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, talking of time of your life.
Yeah.
Spitfire.
Oh, yes. There's a wonderful story, which I believe to be true. Years ago, there was a track day happening at Goodwood, and there were a couple of people having a chat in the paddock, and one turned to the other and go, "What did you come in today?" And the person said, "Oh, I came in a Spitfire." And the bloke went, "Triumph," to which he replied, "No, Supermarine." And I so hope that's true. I know people who swear that they were there. And I just think that no, Supermarine is one of the all-time great replies. Yes, if you subscribe to the website and app, you will know this already. I've flown a Spitfire.
Triumph.
Which means, no, Supermarine. I didn't just fly in a Spitfire. No. I flew a Spitfire. I didn't just fly a Spitfire. I flew a proper combat veteran Spitfire, which had shot at the bad guys during World War II. It was... So the background is, when I was the editor of Motorsport in 2000, there was this plan that... Because I used to do lots of track tester racing cars. But on the 60th anniversary of the Battle of Britain, there was this plan that I would go and fly a Spitfire instead, and just sort of like track fly one of these things. And for reasons I won't bother going into now, but I think probably is in the story, it didn't happen. And so for the last 25 years, I went to a prep school that was in Eastbourne, which is basically below the skies in which the Battle of Britain was fought. And as a kid, I used to go and play literally in the bomb holes that were left by the German bombers as they abandoned their loads and fled for home. So it's been part of me. And if you freeze, there's a certain point in the Battle of Britain film that if you know where to freeze frame it, you can actually see the school that I spent 6 years of my life in. And I just always wanted to do it. And then after this event in 2000, I've just been so wanting to find a way. And one of the joys of doing this job, if I can, be incredibly sort of smug about the whole thing, is that now there is a way, because so long as you can justify it editorially, and we kind of call the shots on that. And as people who subscribe will know, we don't just do cars on the website and that. It's overwhelmingly cars, but we have this tab called Universe where we might talk about mountaineering or speedboats or aircraft or whatever, motorcycles. And so there was a place for it. And there's this amazing company called Spitfires.com. They've actually got 10 locations all over the UK, from up in Scotland to down in the Channel Islands. But I've only ever known them from Goodwood, where I think they're sort of like head offices. And I put it to them, and they went, come and have a go. So I turned up to Spitfires.com, and they are unbelievably professional. They are licensed by the CAA to maintain and service Spitfires, to teach people how to fly Spitfires, not just idiots like me, but people who want to buy their own Spitfire and fly it around on their own. So they will train proper pilots to fly Spitfires. And the briefings that you go through, you've got to watch about 45 minutes of videos before you even leave home. You get rigorously tested when you're there, and quite right too, and asked again and again and again, what happens if something goes wrong? And the chances of something going wrong, you learn two things. One is the chances of something going wrong are microscopically small. And secondly, almost whatever goes wrong, however bad, you're almost certainly going to have options which don't involve some kind of cortege. You can get out. And you need to know this, because when you're in the aircraft, it feels like you're on your own, because you're not sat next to anyone. You sit in a separate cockpit. You can't see the pilot. If the engine's not going, at sort of, maximum bananas, you can hear the pilot a bit in your ears, but that's quite hard. And so the point being is, if something did go wrong, and it absolutely won't, but were it to, you are kind of on your own.
That's why you have to know what you're
doing.
So
you have to know what to do.
Yeah.
And actually, the funny thing is having been told all of this and watched all the videos and everything, I became much more reassured than it didn't scare me off at all. Not that I would ever have not done it anyway, but if I could have been more eager to do it than I was, I would have been after having been told the truth about the risks you're taking, which are negligible. And so I climbed into this thing. It's a thing called a Spitfire Mark 9. It was the first Spitfire with a two-stage supercharged Merlin engine, about 1,500 horsepower, flat out about 400 and something miles an hour. And I had this amazing bloke called Charlie Hugh, who was my pilot. He's flown over 250 different sorts of aircraft, and he's, Spitfires to him are, any kind of normal car that you and I drive to do. It's just something you can just get in and go and do. He doesn't find that difficult at all. And what can I say? It's one of those weird things. I can remember this. Anybody watching this on YouTube will see, we mentioned it earlier, that Porsche 917 in Salzburg colours on the table in front of us. When I first drove that car, I was nervy about it, because all my life it was the car I wanted to drive. And you built up this massive weight of expectations, and your fear is that the experience itself isn't going to live up to your rather childish expectations of it, and it did. And the Spitfire was exactly the same. However good I thought flying a Spitfire was going to be, it was better. It was mesmerizing. The sense of, it's so unlike being in a normal airplane where you're sat there in the seat with, someone's seat back in front of you, someone you don't know to one side, and a small little porthole. You're in the Spitfire, you've got this massive bubble that you sit in. You can see everything. You've got all the controls, all the dials, all the gauges, all the switches. You look out to your left, to your right, and you see that extraordinary elliptical wing that Reginald Mitchell designed in the mid-1930s that was so key to the Spitfire's performance.
Do you understand the theory behind that wing?
I'd like to say that I do, but no.
Okay, but somehow it makes the plane hyper-agile, doesn't it?
Hyper-agile. Yeah. And that was the thing it could... So, the Messerschmitts were up against, they had cannons, and the Spitfires only had machine guns. The Messerschmitts were better... I don't know whether they were quicker. They might have climbed faster, but there are many areas in which the Messerschmitt was a superior aircraft, but it could never outturn a Spitfire. And so if you had a Spitfire and there was a Messerschmitt trying to get away from you, you had far and away the easy job, because whatever it did, you could do more.
Wow.
And anyway, so I went up in this thing, and we did some tracking shots. And down, you and I do tracking shots all the time. When there's a third dimension involved and you're doing nearly 200 miles an hour, it is a bit different. And it was very blowy that day. I couldn't believe how close to this camera plane, which is a thing called the Cessna Caravan, Charlie was prepared to park this Spitfire.
Really?
The real problem was that the Cessna was going absolutely as fast as it could, and the Spitfire was going absolutely as slowly as it could. And we were told that we had 5 minutes because the Spitfire can't fly that slow for very long. I mean, the Spitfire really doesn't want to do a lot less than 200.
Right.
So we're doing this, and then as soon as we'd done that, he went, well, off you go. Your airplane.
Bloody hell.
And I was just, I have flown. I mean, I'm not a pilot. I've never even attempted to become a pilot, but I've flown, a couple of things, and I've been up on a glider and so on. So I understand the basics. I know what the big stick in front of you is for, and I know what the pedals do, and I know what most of the dials do, but I'm not much further on than that. And then suddenly, and I can remember, I sort of rather hesitantly took the stick in my hand and put my feet on the rudder bars. And then I sort of looked in front, and the only time I ever saw him at all was I just saw the tips of his fingers. He stuck his hands in the air just to prove to me that he wasn't flying it anymore. And there I was flying a Spitfire. And I sort of said to him, well, what can I do? And he was going, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, could I try a turn? And he went, your airplane, do what you like. I couldn't believe it. So I turned left, I turned right, I went up, I went down, I flew out to sea, I turned round, I came back.
Wow.
I mean, wow. What a thing to do. What a thing to do. It's really expensive.
Yeah.
It's about £100 a minute.
Yeah.
But if you can possibly think of being able to afford it, what I absolutely promise you is that the memory of the bill will fade and pass. And the memory of flying that will be with you for the rest of your days. And if you can afford, it's about £500 to have the Cessna up with you.
Yeah. Oh, you should.
You can fill it up with your mates, but the pictures that you can get, the memory that gives you. I mean, there is a camera in the plane, which was one of these weird 360-degree cameras, which lets you see everything. And there's some amazing footage. When I handed control back to Charlie, he just did what people call a victory roll. It's actually a simple aileron roll, but it's just it's a roll, and so you're upside down in a Spitfire, and so you can see that. You can see your face with the ground apparently above you, which is quite fun. But it's nothing like the pictures that you get from the Cessna, particularly if someone's got a half decent camera and knows how to point it and squirt it. So that was it, and you can fly it for as little as, I think, 25 minutes or as much as 75 minutes. Even if you do the shortest flight possible, that'll get you out over the Isle of Wight and
you've
back.
done it, yeah.
If you take the long one, you can go to Bristol, you can go to Dover, you can but even with the shortest one, which I think is about £3,500, you've flown a Spitfire. And they didn't say to me, do you want to fly? Because I was doing it for a story or because I'm me or in any way special. If you want to fly a Spitfire, you can go and fly a Spitfire. You never need to have flown anything before in your life. And all you have to do is go on spitfires.com, and they will do everything else. And there was such a professional organisation. As I said, I felt really reassured by it. And for a long time after, you go into that sort of phase of really not quite being able to believe that you did it. Anyway, the story is on the website now. It's in 2 parts. I really tortured people because I wrote the first half of it, and we weren't even off the ground by the end of it, which was all about the build up to it and what you have to do and what you need to do and the training and what it's like to sit in and then taxi out. And then the second half is all about flying the thing. And it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, I mean, the 2-part story is fantastically written, as you'd imagine, and it's quite rightly been received brilliantly. Everyone who read it really enjoyed it. So you must go and check it out if you haven't already. There will actually be a video coming in the next week or 2.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes, we shot a video as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be up quite shortly on the Intercooler YouTube channel.
Yeah, you can see me upside down in a Spitfire.
Super cool thing to do.
Nuts.
Really,
Very
really cool.
lucky. Very lucky.
Well, listen, let's wrap this one up. I will remind you all that you can subscribe to the Intercooler and get this podcast ad-free, the midweek Ask the Intercooler show ad-free, audio articles, full access to our magazine, and the archive of 1,500 stories. You can read all of them if you want to. And you can subscribe for 20% off for the first year if you choose an annual sub and use coupon code POD20.
Go and do it. It's brilliant.
You really should. If you're watching this on YouTube, please just subscribe to our channel. If you're listening as
if you're watching on YouTube, can you tell us what you think of the 917?
Yeah,
I think it's fabulous.
How good does it look? Brilliant, I would say. And if you are just listening to this as an audio podcast, please follow the show on whichever app you use, and we'll be back with another episode next week.
See you then.